to kill him or bring him to justice, whichever. Get rid of him. This is what he said. And he was on the road to Damascus with these papers to do exactly that. And he said, a blinding light overcame him. And he heard a voice. And he fell to the ground, but his companions with him heard nothing and saw nothing. Same book, Acts of the Apostles, chapter 20, verse 24. He tries again to tell the same story. This time he got in a hurry, he forgot, and he mentioned, oh, they heard it, but they didn't see anything. The other one, take it back, and said they saw it, but they didn't hear anything. Chapter 26, he tries to tell the same story again. Guess what happens now? Everybody heard everything, saw everything, and they all fell down on the ground. Only this time he doesn't go blind. He doesn't go to the city and get another story. He just gets the whole thing on the spot, and then he goes. So you got 3 different stories in the same book by the same guy. If you presented this in a court of law today, this would be considered an unreliable witness, and they would throw him out. So if you're asking me what I think about it, I just told you. Not credible. As far as speaking in tongues, it didn't say they spoke, that part of it didn't say they spoke tongues. That's another place. The statement is being made in this question. It presumes something, but I'll read this one. What drew you from Christianity to Islam? I don't feel like I was drawn. I was seeking all my life to find the best way to get closest to God. I told you, I always believed in God. I just didn't know what to believe about God. I needed to believe something. I settled for a lot of things that I couldn't resolve simply because I wanted to believe. And I definitely wanted to adhere to the religion of my forefathers, because we're the ones that established Christianity in this country. Just so you know that. On my mother's side and my father's side, both. Big time. Our family came in 1660 on my dad's side. 1849 on my mom's side. And they were real heavy into church work, building the churches. When I was a little kid, my grandmother and her sister were the soloists of our church. I was the organist in our church. So, I mean, this is not something lightweight with me. Nothing was drawing me, like magic. No, it was real hard for me to go to my family after preaching to them and telling them. Now I go and say, by the way, God's really only one. And you have to worship Him and atone for your sin on your own. And Jesus didn't die for your sin. And they're like, get out of here. I've been thrown out of some, really thrown out. But what happened? You're asking what happened. So let me try to give it to you in a nutshell. We have it. It's actually a whole talk, and it's a lecture about a Catholic priest, myself, my father, all of us religious people, preaching, okay? Minister, priest, and preacher, all of us coming to Islam. What our story was, and each of us on our own, for whatever reason. But it's in the website, Islam Yesterday, in audio and video. And it's also at islamtomorrow.com as a story. You can print it out, whichever you like, read the whole thing. But the bottom line was, I was trying to convert an Egyptian Muslim to become a Christian. His statement to me was, okay, I'll go to your religion if your religion is better than mine. That's easy. Even to this minute, I will tell you, there's no religion on this earth any easier than Christianity. You do not have to make salat 5 times a day as a Christian. You do not have to fast the whole month of Ramadan as a Christian. You do not have to make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land as a Christian. You're not forced as a Christian to do very much of anything. Just a little something you say. You don't even have to be nice. You should be. I mean, you're highly encouraged. But everything's forgiven. Just one statement. What an easy religion. I mean, you've got to be a sap to run away from that. That's easy. But then he said the rest of his sentence, and I was hooked. He said, I'll go to your religion if it's better than my religion, but you'll need to have proof. He said, religion is not about proof. Religion is about faith. He said, in Islam we have both. We have proof. We have faith. Hold on, what? Wait a minute, hold on a second. You mean you can prove there's God? He said, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. When Islam comes to any rational person, as long as they won't lose their rationale and they'll keep investigating, they have to become convinced that it's something. Even the scientists who have investigated Islam, they're talking about real famous scientists in the world today. We have the videos of these people from Sheikh Zandani's work, and you can see them standing in front of the camera saying that there's no way that the Quran could have come from anybody except God, and they used to be atheists till they got there. It's from the efforts of the Muslims, and I thank Allah for that these atheists had to come to grips with the fact that there must be something. And now, since Zandani's work, Sheikh Zandani did this, bringing the people together to investigate Islam and to really learn what the Quran says about science. It's not a book of science, but it has science in it. And they were so amazed that they all said, without exception, this has to be from God or someone or something bigger or powerful. We don't know. Since that time, they've coined the phrase intelligent design. These people who used to preach human beings coming out of monkeys are now saying, well, oops. They don't want to say God. They will say intelligent design. What does that mean? An intelligent monkey? I don't want to get off into something too far, but I did want to, touch on this a little bit for you to think about it. We have the videos on our site, and one of the scientists, while he was talking from the lectern, he was standing there, and he said, I guess it's time for me to say, and he picked up a piece of paper that had something worded for him. He said, it's time for me to say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That happened, and he entered Islam on the spot. Based on what? Proof. Proof. But you can't have this argument or discussion with a person that's irrational. And let me give you an example of that. I'm pointing my finger away from the floor toward the ceiling, and I'm calling this direction up. Now I'm reversing that. Now I'm pointing toward the floor, and I'm saying that direction is down. Would everybody agree with that here? Or you don't have to, but if you agree with that, that's called rational statements. But if in our dialogue suddenly you don't like what's going down and you're willing to change it, so well, it could also be down and you're pointing toward the ceiling. Or it could also be down and you're pointing toward the floor. Or you start pointing sideways and say, well, that could be up or down too. That becomes what? Irrational. So if somebody tells you that in 1535, and they live in Mexico, they said in 1535, Hernan Cortez came here, and he did. And he came up out of the water. Well, in a way he did. That's true, he did come up out of the water because he was in the water on his horse, and he had his armor on, and he came out. So he came up out of the water, and he brought salvation to us. I don't see that anybody there could have said that after he assassinated so many people, but still, if somebody living there said Hernan Cortez was God incarnate on a horse coming out of the water, and you said, where do you get that from? He said, because I got it in my heart. How will you argue with that? How will you argue with that? You can't, because you can't come between a person and their heart. That heart doesn't belong to you and me. The heart belongs to God. And if he doesn't want to guide the person, then you ain't going to do it. The expression, you can lead the horse to water,